What is going on out there, peeps? All right, so look, a few things have happened over the last couple of days, and the articles. Let's put it this way: the last week we've seen a couple of different articles. One saying one thing, one talking about another in regards to the exchange rate as well as the actual value of the dinar. We're going to get into that here in just a couple of minutes. But again, quick reminder, everybody, if you're thinking about getting some precious metals, give our friends over there at Money Metal Exchange a consideration. The link is in the description. If you buy more than $100 of precious metal on your original purchase, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free half ounce of silver. We have Pimpy's Investment Chat, same name as the YouTube channel. Over here we talk about investment opportunities, gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. No politics. Bring the politics over here, which is the hidden things in front of your eyes. Over here you can't talk about politics. All right, you can talk about current events, QAnon, uh, NESARA, GESARA, 9/11, false flag events, the whole 9 yards. Just be respectful of one another. That's it. Also, if you don't have Facebook, I do have a profile over here on Twitter. Come on over here and join me. All right. So before we get into the articles, there's not a whole lot going on, but things we need to be aware of because it interferes with everything that we're talking about. Okay, first of all, whenever I find or come across articles that I think people should be aware of, and that's good, bad, or ugly, whether their articles are good, neutral, or bad, you guys need to be aware of them, all right? I'm not just going to sit here and show you positive stuff all the time because everything that I'm showing you is either discussing about or affects the investment into the Iraqi dinar. And for some of us, those of us who have bought into the ISX, which is the Iraqi stock. Okay, so both short-term and long-term investments are affected by the news that I bring to you. And that's why I talk about a lot of these things, okay? So it's not just for the currency all the time. That's the same with Vietnam. There's a lot of people who are interested in investing into stocks over there. And I think with good reason. The same with Iraq, okay? So anyways, we had one article in which the IMF is suggesting that they lowered the exchange rate. Well, that's great news. That's good for us. If you hold the Iraqi dinar, a decrease in the exchange rate would be a gain for us. That'd be positive. That's a positive thing for us. Yesterday, I showed you guys an article in which this economist, this guy, he writes his reports, by the way, about once every 3 or 6 months. You'll see the same guy making the same suggestion. He's an economic expert. He constantly talks about how Iraq needs to delete the zeros off their currency. And that's a devaluation of the currency, is what he's talking about. So, again, I don't want people to get overly happy when the news is good or get overly bummed out when the news looks bad. That's because they do this all the time. There's always a lot of chatter. We don't care about what they say. What we care about is what they do. You're going to have people on both ends of the spectrums, so just be calm. I told you in any investment, okay? So once again, a quick reminder. In any investment that you invest in, any of them, there's always some amount of risk involved, some more than others. There's no guarantees, and no one could predict the future, although some people do pretty good damn job at it, okay? So what we do is just pay attention to what's going on, watch what the experts are doing, or basically watch what the rich are doing, because they'll tell you one thing and do the opposite. So again, we want to see what they do, not what they say. All right, so again, I'll go back and I posted that video yesterday. It talks about the deletion of the zeros. Underneath the description, I did post 2 other videos that I did explaining in detail what the deletion of the zeros means. There's different meanings behind it. So hopefully you guys did that, and then I'll go back and respond to the questions. If you have questions, put them underneath that video that I did yesterday regarding the devaluing of the Iraqi dinar, okay? Okay, so as far as what's going on in the news, what happened last night is kind of big. I think a lot of officials everywhere are starting to realize that there is a faction of people who don't want to see Iraq be a sovereign standalone nation again. Mainly Iran. They want Iraq relying on them for everything so that they can use Iraq to help circumvent a lot of these sanctions. They do a lot of illegal activity through the corruption of the government. The Iranian-backed puppets funnel money into Iran to circumvent sanctions. So having said that, you're going to see a lot of these little attacks happen. And you're starting to see the three presidencies. So you're looking at Soleil, Barzani, Al-Kadhimi, as well as the international community getting together and discussing what they need to do to end this. Okay, so 6 missiles were launched last night. 6 of them. They didn't hit anything because they're terrible at it. But that's not the point. These attacks have been consistent and they've been non-stop. Al-Kadhimi has done a whole lot to go in there and clean a lot of this up. He has done a whole lot, but there is still a lot to do. This man's only been in office technically since May, and then didn't get in his cabinet until July. So we're barely August, September, 2 months in, and this guy's done a world of different things, but it's not enough. There's a lot of cleanup he still has to do, a lot of corruption that he has to clean up, and that's talked about in a lot of these articles. Plus, he has to deal with the factional groups of people who truly don't want, Iraq to be a standalone sovereign nation. There is a lot of money to be made in Iraq, keeping it the way it is, full of corruption, the way it is, but not just by Iran. There are other countries that use Iraq for different things as well. So since they're like the gateway into the Middle East for the most part, I remember Dr. Shabibi during the Paris Agreement, when he had a fit about them wanted to forgive the debt, but they wanted the IMF and the World Bank to dictate policy. After reviewing the policy of what they wanted to do with the Iraqi dinar, Dr. Shabibi didn't like it. He said the policies were great at keeping inflation really, really low. But because of the idea that they had for the exchange rate, it would not give the Iraqi dinar any type of value, and that would hinder any type of growth in Iraq. He was against it at first, but was talked back into going along with it for the sake of the amount of debt that they were forgiven. And still today, you can see the IMF and the World Bank are dictating what's going on there, and they're being babysitted by the United Nations. So, like Dr. Shabibi said, it didn't help with any type of growth. And he also put in there that it was his opinion that there were people outside of his country in other countries that were going to use Iraq. And there was a reason why they wanted the rate to be low. Basically, he was saying pretty much that there are some corrupt intentions behind it. But nonetheless, we are where we are today. So those same people that want to keep it down, Iran, are causing a lot of problems. So let's get into that. We are ready to support Al-Kadhimi in the face of the enemies of Iraq. All right, so now they're starting to come together as a nation. I actually like this. All right. The president of the Kurdistan region, Barzani, confirmed on Thursday that his government is ready to provide a hand of aid and support to the Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi in confronting what he called enemies of Iraq. So now you got Kurdistan. You have Sadr, you know what I mean? And Sadr now talking to the other factions saying, look, we have got to wean out these enemies. These are people who are enemies of Iraq. And he's pointing fingers at some of these leaders. I like to see these people unite. What it achieves, we're going to find out. So a group of saboteurs launched at 8:30 last night 6 missiles from the Bartella area near Mosul, towards the headquarters of the International Coalition in Erbil. Unfortunately, they were unable to inflict any losses. So there's a part of me sometimes that says, man, there's a reason why these guys got their ass kicked so easy in a war. They can't hit any targets at all. So there's a part of me that thinks they launched the missiles without any intentions of hitting any real targets, although there has been a couple of civilians that were killed. But something tells me the intentions are to just act as a threat, so that when the Americans leave, like Sadr said, it would give people this false impression that they were defeated, and they'll go around campaigning that they defeated Americans, the militia groups. So 6 missiles were launched. Once again, this on the heels of Al-Qademi trying to talk Mike Pompeo and them out of closing the U.S. embassy, and now other embassies internationally are talking about closing. This is all bad. All of this is bad for Iraq. If the embassies start closing, that means they don't feel secure there. That means it's unstable. And this is a huge, huge major blow to what we're trying to achieve, both short term and long term. Now, keep in mind, they're doing something about it. I'm watching the country unite to stop this. This is, we see in this attack on the people of the Kurdistan region and their allies in the war against terrorism. At the same time, we are convinced that all security forces in the Kurdistan region of Iraq and the Peshmerga forces, Iraq forces, and the popular mobilization forces must intensify their effort to block roads in front of these acts of saboteurs. I'm thinking about this time, what Iraq should be requesting is assistance with drones. So the drones should be flying around with their equipment that can detect where missiles are being launched from, immediately get to that location, and through infrared lock on the targets that fired off the shots, and keep a lock on them until the military can catch them. Or else this isn't going to stop. They're going to keep intensifying this. They really want Iraq to be unstable. They really want Iraq relying on Iran. Okay? So again, what they're saying is everybody's starting to unite together. They're going to do what they need to do to make sure that they catch these people that are responsible for these missile launches. This is the World Bank. Iraq stands at the crossroads, and its GDP is the worst in 2003. Well, yeah, we know why. There's a ton of things in here why. We had the protest. We had the resignation of the last administration before the end of last year. It took not one, not two, but 3 attempts to get in a new prime minister. Then there were delays in his cabinets until July. He's only been in office a couple of months. So, a whole whopping 6 months has gone by. There was an oil war. It dropped the value of oil way down. Then on top of that, we got the Rona going on across the world. It closed economies everywhere. And if people aren't out driving their cars or traveling, guess what? The demand for oil goes way down. So that affected the oil prices. Add that to the fact that 96% of the entire budget is funded by oil sales for Iraq. Put those all together, that's not a good combination. Not to mention the fact you got Iran interfering with Iraq's ability to want to be a standalone sovereign nation. All right? Plus still dealing with ISIS. So there's a lot going on there, and that's why it's affecting the GDP. That should not be a surprise. It goes on to talk about still there's a high level of corruption, but we know that that's being taken care of. How almost weekly we see reports coming out of Iraq, these high-ranking officials and people in senior positions being arrested or removed for corrupt purposes. To me, those are major steps forward. That's what I want to see. So it's not all as bad as it seems, but they definitely need to do something about these rogue militia-armed people firing rockets. If that continues, you're going to see people pull out of the embassies everywhere. We know that Al-Qademi has sent in his police forces to go from area to area, house to house, search for weapons and remove them. We'll see if it bears any fruits. Okay, also the Al-Rafidian Bank, it says we are continuing to open accounts for citizens to deposit their money and obtain interest. Okay, so if you've been following my videos, you know I've spoken about this. A lot of people in Iraq, I think only 9% of the population has banking accounts. And the reason for it is they really don't trust the banks. They've had one issue after another since the days of Saddam Hussein. When he was removed, the invasion, they took their money. 2003, they had to swap out their old currencies for their new currencies. Then you had ISIS come in and take their money. So you know what I mean? It's nerve-wracking to have your money in the bank. And like I always say, I don't trust banks in the first place. But nonetheless, they're trying to encourage people to come in and open up banking accounts. So good, they're opening up accounts. Let's get them in there. Let's avoid though the 100% digital currency. All right. So again, there's many articles in here that go on and on. It talks about Barzani working together with Al-Qademi and speaking with the President of the Republic, Souley, as well as other international leaders about what they need to do to stop these attacks. Okay, so that's it for now. We'll monitor it and see what happens, but that's what's going on. I will respond to that video because I'm sure a lot of you got a lot of questions or might still be confused when I showed you the article about the deletions of the 3 zeros. I will respond to that later on today. All right, so that's it for now. If you guys like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later.